My Lords, in principle, I welcome this bill's aspiration to enhance protection of workers' rights. But one nagging doubt, ploughing through this huge, red tape-laden, unwieldy legislation, how does it fulfil its boast to modernise employment rights and make them fit for the modern world? To me, it seems bizarrely out of sync with shifts in modern workplace culture. For example, we're told by government that more sick leave entitlement aims to, quote, reduce the number of infections in the workplace, boosting productivity and benefiting business. Really? Has the Minister not noticed the crisis created by large swathes of workers too readily not going into work, pleading sickness, stress, etc.? Also, surely making flexible working a default position will exacerbate the modern fashion for working from home as a regressive retreat from collective workplace solidarity. It's hard to cultivate a one-for-all, all-for-one culture from the individualised isolation of your bedroom office, a privilege, by the way, only accessible to white-collar workers. On trade unions, I'm delighted to see the back of the ludicrous Strikes Minimum Service Levels Act, which I argued against in this chamber. But I'm also worried that modern trade unions aren't fit for purpose. Their ideological priorities seem to often put them at odds with their members. I thought of this listening to today's maiden speeches, and by the way, a warm welcome to the Baronesses Cash, Berger and Gray. This chamber always benefits from more feisty women. But let me focus on the noble Lord Young of Acton, the founder of the Free Speech Union, which invaluably defends workers' rights when facing a specifically modern form of employer mistreatment, i.e. being punished or sacked merely for expressing legal, if dissident, viewpoints. The FSU is necessary because, tragically, too many, particularly public sector, union bureaucrats seem to have been radicalised by the toxic ideology of identity politics. Trade union officials often act as the censorious enforcers of HR departments' equality, diversity and inclusion policies, policing their members' speech rather than protecting their rights, the very opposite of the role the noble Lord Balfe described earlier. One example, Unison Conference passed a motion pledging to combat so-called, quote, gender-critical narratives and distributed materials that conflated sex-realist perspectives with far-right extremism. No surprise, then, a group of nurses from County Durham, more feisty women that I like, have been forced to set up their own Darlington Nurses Union. They're taking the NHS Trust to an employment tribunal, alleging the hospital's HR department intimidated and harassed them when they objected to sharing their female changing room with a biological male who identifies as a trans woman. The official nursing unions were useless, instead repeating their NHS bosses' inclusion mantras. Yesterday, Sussex University was rightly fined over £500,000 for failing to protect Professor Kathleen Stock's free speech. But don't forget, as Professor Stock noted at the time, it was her own Sussex University Union, backed up by the National UCU and General Secretary Joe O'Grady, who threw her under the bus. Things are so bad, members are taking unions to court. Two academics, Deirdre O'Neill and Michael Wayne, the makers of the film Adult Human Female, have lodged a tribunal action against the UCU for viewpoint discrimination after campus branches blocked screenings. Meanwhile, Rick Pryor, chair of the Metropolitan Police Federation, is taking legal action against his union. He was locked out of his union email and suspended after a TV interview suggesting many of his 30,000 rank-and-file officers are increasingly nervous about challenging people from ethnic minorities. To note, the Met's Professional Standards Department concluded his remarks did not amount to misconduct. These trends reflect the modern world of trade unionism. If these remain unacknowledged and this bill uncritically extends the bureaucrats' powers, it might well not help but hinder workers' rights.
Lords, I congratulate